and so his rivals are going to be watching very, very hard to try and make that stop.
เอาละครับคุณผู้ชมครับยังอยู่ในบร
On the
รยากาศ
front
ของ
row,
จังหวัด
alongside him
บุ
is
รี
set
รั
to
มย์
be
ที่สนามช้างอินเตอร์เน
driver
ชั่นแนล
12,
เซอร์กิต
which
แห่งนี้เลยครับ
is
ซึ่งรุ่นที่
Ayaton Asdathorn, as we see our
นั่นคือรุ่น F4
presenter on the ground
นะครับ
just speaking in his
แน่นอน
native
กับรายการ
language.
ของเรา TSS The Super
And the grid is now
Series
starting to be cleared.
2025นะครับ
It will be a 25-minute race plus 1 lap, so when the timer hits 0, they will do 1 more lap when they cross the line for the race ends. I was slightly caught up by that yesterday, but thankfully that won't happen again today. As the grid decides to clear, as I say, it's been quite an incredible record of victories for Alex Sawer, the young Vietnamese driver. I think our compatriot down the grid is going to have a quick word on the grid there, just talking about his chances, talking about his opportunities for trying to keep up this win streak. And when you get out of the car yesterday, he was very much someone who looked as though he barely turned a wheel in anger. He looked very fresh, very cool, calm and collected. One of those drivers where if they are dominating, they almost get used to winning so many times that they kind of, the first time it's exciting, and then when they get to the 7th, 8th, 9th time, it then becomes almost like second nature. They kind of celebrate and look a little more subdued, but I'm certain within them, they're certainly fired up and pumped up and ready to go and trying to get another win.
เวลามีไม่เยอะนะฮะท่านผู้ชมครับแต่ต้องแน่นอนความมันเนี่ยยังอยู่กับเราไปทั้งสนามเนี่ยใช้เวลาประมาณ 25 นาทีบวกกับอีก1 รอบนะครับอเล็กซ์ก็บอกว่าจริงๆแล้วเนี่ยครับในเรื่องของการแข่งขันรอเปิดในรุ่นของ F4 เนี่ยก็เป็นรุ่นที่น่าสนใจแล้วเขาก็ตั้งใจในการขับแข่งมากซึ่งเขาก็ชนะมานะครับในสนามที่ผ่านมาก็ติดตามเขาให้ดีแล้วก็สนับสนุนเขาด้วยนะครับกับการแข่งขันในรุ่น F4 Southeast Asia กับอเล็กซ์Sawer นะครับแล้วทีมชาติไทยนะครับที่อยู่ในสนาม2 คนด้วยนะครับกับน้อง
are effectively an Evans GP satellite team. They are looked after and do have run Evans GP logos, so they do get some technical support from Evans GP. And that was evident yesterday when Ayaton Asdathorn has picked up so far this weekend a 4th place yesterday after a great 2nd place battle. But there is Ayaton looking to go one further and get himself on the podium. And Ayaton already has a 3rd place to his name this weekend from race 1, so he'll be looking to try and do better. He was in that fight for 2nd place with Seth Gilmore, this man here. And Seth himself has only finished off the podium once all season. That was race 2 at Sepang at the opening round. So far, 2 2nd places and 2 3rd places. And Seth actually recovered pretty well from a spin early on in the race to get himself onto the podium. This man, Inigo Anton, one of the 2 Black Arts racing cars. Now, he managed to pick up a very valuable 2nd place yesterday. And that was his best result of the season. 2nd podium of the year, too. This is Wong Zhongwei, who is an experienced F4 racer for Origin Motorsport. Looks like he'll be raring to go from his grid spot today. And then the only Masters driver, Thomas Yu Lee for Evans GP, the 3rd of the Evans GP cars in the field. He will want to make some progress compared to his result from yesterday, where he finished 7th. And so for this morning's race, or this afternoon's race at least, here in Thailand, he'll be starting from P6. Rishon Rajiv actually picked himself up a pole position for race number 2, but couldn't quite hold on to it and had to settle for a spot just outside the top 5 in the end. And then a frustrating race for Ben Nerwing, who possibly wanted to try and get a good result, but he found himself, after recovering from a trip into the gravel, which put him basically out of race number 1, he had issues pushing him back to race 2. One driver that had a race to forget yesterday was Wadaprong Imachan. He was pushed off the grid before the start of the race yesterday, and then had a spin at the beginning of the race after he joined in, and because of that, found himself struggling all towards the end. A bit of a subdued race for Joshua Berry yesterday. He will start this 3rd and final race of the weekend from the back of the grid in P10, but he'll want to try and go a couple of positions better, given the fact that in yesterday's 2nd race, Joshua picked up 8th. So he actually got the better of one of his Black Arts racing teammates in Ben Nerwing, but couldn't quite match the pace of either as Ayaton Rishon Rashiv or Inigo Anton. So once again, it will be a safety car start, which means the cars will head off behind the safety car. And once the safety car pulls off, the race timer effectively begins. So the 25 minutes plus 1 lap will commence once the safety car pulls away and gets racing underway here. And you can see once again, like yesterday, if you look at the track surface, there are still patches of the circuit that are still a little bit damp and aren't fully dry yet. That's the reason why we have the safety car start. Now, that did prompt some drivers yesterday to go on the wet tyres because it was more wet than dry. If you now look at the surface here today, it's possibly almost 50-50, if not more, dry than wet. And I think it looks as though the majority of the drivers, if not all, have decided to go onto the slick tyre this time by, rather than on the full wet, which possibly served them a bit better in the early stages of the race, but then started to fade off towards the end. So Alex Sawyer then, looking for his 6th win in a row, will start from pole position, with Ayrton Asdorthorn looking to try and go better in only his first appearance of the championship. He will start 2nd for star performance in the number 51 machine, looking to try and beat and possibly end the win streak of Alex Sawyer. 3rd is Seth Gilmore, the Australian, in the 2nd of the Evans GP cars, and Inigo Anton, who picked up that excellent 2nd place yesterday. He wants to try and do better from the 2nd row of the grid, starting in 4th for Black Arts Racing. 3rd row of the grid is where we find Wang Zhongwei for Origin Motorsport, and the only Masters driver in the field, the Evans GP car, the 3rd of the Evans GP cars of Thomas Yu Lee. And he'll want to try and get a little better than he did yesterday. He started slipping back a little bit after a decent partially reverse grid start for race number 2. Into the 4th row of the grid, as we look backwards, we see Richon Rashid, who was on the pole, the partially reverse grid pole yesterday and led very early on, and Ben Nerwing, who will certainly hope for better fortunes trying to build his way back up through the order. Of course, had that off in race number 1, wasn't able to really capitalise on pace in race 2, he only finished 9th. And so effectively, he was pretty much out of contention from the start of the race. And then from the back of the grid, we had Warapong Imachan, who is at least getting going from the grid after he stalled yesterday and had a nightmare start to the race, which saw him all the way down towards the bottom of the field. And Joshua Berry, who wants to improve on 8th place, who he's had his position that he's owned pretty much the entire race weekend, started back from 10th. He's got a lot of challenge still to put in here. So the cars make their way around on the not the formation lap, but the race has already begun. You can see the timer on the left-hand side of the screen. Top left has already begun. 25 minutes plus 1 lap. And as they make their way around, see here, they'll get at least another lap behind the safety car to get themselves acclimatised. So the conditions are somewhat different compared to yesterday. As I mentioned, it's certainly drier than it was. It's brighter in terms of the sun, and it's not as gloomy as it was yesterday. We have had a couple of Thailand Super Series races to really start to dry the circuit up a little more. So it certainly has been working in favour. This Buriram circuit, 2.83 miles or 4.5 kilometres. It is one of the finest racetracks in Asia outside of places like Japan, and certainly has hosted top-level bike racing such as MotoGP and World Superbikes. It's also hosted the Asian Le Mans Series, TCR International races as well. FIA World Touring Car Championship has been here too as well, and of course we've also had Super GT compete here in previous years too. So it is a fine facility, a fine racetrack. I know there's even talks underway for a bid for a Thai Grand Prix, given the success of Alex Albon in the Williams in Formula 1. Going at quite a rate. So you can see the patchiness of the circuit around. You can see that everyone's on a definitive dry line, but they're just offline to drivers left or right. There are sections that are still a little bit wet, still a little bit slippery, and so they might well use them to cool their tyres down a little more, but if they possibly get too much, they'll start to lose them traction, and therefore potentially could even see them making a mistake or two and getting a spin. Joshua Berry at the back of the field, watching for the safety car lights to go out. When they go out, the race will get underway, and it will be up to Alex Sawyer to decide when he wants to pull the pin and get racing underway. And it looks as though he might be going safety car, end of the safety car in a very moment's time. Yes, they're starting to back off a little bit now. So we are set to get racing properly underway here at Buriram. So everyone stacks up behind the championship leader, Alex Sawyer. He is going for 6 out of 6 in the F4 Southeast Asia Championship. But can he manage it? He had to pick his way through from 6th position yesterday. Now he's right at his prime position at the front of the field. And he decided now's the time to go. Now you can't pass until you get to the timing line. So a couple of the cars are a little out of position. But we'll see how they get on here. Through the final corner then and onto the pit straight. They'll get the green flag. And race number 3 of the weekend here at Chang International Circuit in Buriram is finally properly underway with 20 minutes left on the clock. And it's Sawyer who leads the way, Asdorthorn in 2nd place, and that's a fast start from Thomas Yu Lee, who's already up to 3rd place. So But Thomas Yuli with a lightning start, catching a few drivers off guard, and into P3 already through turn 1. Alex Sawyer then already putting a gap to second place Ayrton Asdorf. He's not wasting any time at all. It's side by side for third place, the two Evans GP cars. Thomas Yuli on camera to the right, Seth Gilmore on the left. He's also got just behind him here Inigo Anton battling for position. Up the inside to retake third place into turn 3 goes Seth Gilmore, and now trying to squeeze him out is Inigo Anton. So despite the fact that he got a decent start, picked up 2 places, it's now right back to 5th position for Thomas Yuli, and now he's also under threat from Wong Zhongwei in 6th position. He's now darting up to the inside of turn 4. There's a possible move here if he's brave enough to go up the inside. Thomas Yuli's got the outside line run pretty well, but he runs wide over the curb, but keeps his foot in and keeps the place, and locking up's not going to help him either, as he runs a little too deep into the corner. But he's maintained the place and holds on to 5th position. So easy run through the first few corners, and already you can see trying to make a break is Alex Sawyer as Thomas Yuli submits to Wong Zhongwei. His next target's going to be to battle with is Rishon Rajid. He'll peek up the inside as they look through this winding complex of corners towards the end of the lap, all the way through turns 8 and 9. In sort of this long curving sort of left-hander of 10, the kink of 11, and then back down the short straight towards the final corner of turn 12. It's quite a tight part of a corner. It wouldn't really set you up for a good run down the pit straight. So end of lap number 1 then, and it's Alex Sawyer who leads the way, as many would have anticipated. Sawyer then leading the way now by 2 seconds on the opening lap already on this green flag running. It's an incredible getaway from the championship leader. And he now has a 2-second advantage. Asdorf in 2nd place, Gilmore 3rd, Anton 4th. This is now the fight for 5th position between Wong Zhongwei, Thomas Yuli, Rishon Rashid, and Lee's trying to line up Wong Zhongwei down towards turn 3. Looks to the outside line in the Evans GP car, but he's got enough momentum to possibly get the switch back, unless Wong Zhongwei does that, which is part of the car right on corner apex, not allowing any momentum whatsoever. Thomas Yuli to carry him through. Now he's in the slipstream again and will run down towards turn 4. See if Thomas Yuli's got anything here to call close to. He's not close enough to make a dive into this corner. It's a very fast left-hander. If you're brave souls, try and make a move here. Now into a slightly trickier braking zone of 5, where we saw Thomas lock up a little bit going into this corner on the opening lap under racing speeds. And as the race continues on, we've got a close fight here developing, possibly for 2nd place already, as Asdorf is just seeing Seth Gilmore in his mirrors as they turn out through turns 9, and then through this long left arcing left-hander of 10, back to 11. And Gilmore, who will be keen to get himself another strong podium, hopefully do so without having to make a spin. He's only finished once off the podium this season as Seth. That was in race 2 at Sepang, the opening round. Apart from that, he's had 2 second places and 2 thirds. So the Evans GP driver from Australia, so you're doing well. He's forcing Asdorf to look at his mirrors. You just saw him glance there to the left, his left-hand mirror, driver's side, to see where Gilmore was. Meanwhile, this man, Alex Sawyer, you kind of run out of superlatives for him in a minute, because he has continued to spread eagle the field every single time he's got into his Evans GP car. And the Vietnamese driver showing everyone else a clean pair of heels, and this is only the 3rd lap at racing speed. We're on to lap 5 already of this race, after those 2 laps behind the safety car to begin things. Remember, the race started as soon as the safety car moved off, so we've had 5 minutes behind the safety car to get things underway, but you can clearly see that given the clear skies now here at Bularam, the circuit is just drying up incredibly quickly, so the justification for dry tyres is well founded. So then, only around the 1 minute 40s, he's about at least a second quicker than everyone else at this point in time, which is pretty substantial, and no wonder he's dominated all 5 of the first 5 races. This is the scrap per second though, as the Thorn seeing Gilmore looming large in his mirrors. They come up through turns 8 and through 9 and very wide over the curve as Asdorf trying to get some leverage, but he can't do that too much. Otherwise he will start to cop track limits, penalties and warnings. I think he's getting a little bit under pressure from Seth Gilmore, who is just not fully pressing underneath his gearbox. He's not right on his rear wing, but he's just lurking there behind him, just forcing him to look behind as well as in front. Of course, remember the Star Performance team are effectively an Evans GP satellite team. They do get some support from Evans GP. this is, in a way, not, well, a technicality teammates, because they are running two different teams, Evans GP in the main squad, Star Performance in the satellite squad. See Aston here, just trying to dart across a little bit to try and break the toe that Gilmore might have down towards turn 3. He looks fairly comfortable in second place at the moment. He's not going massively defensive because Gilmore's not close enough to mount a challenge. Going out turn 3. It's pulled a small, tiny gap, probably about half a car length on Gilmore on this lap alone so far. Gilmore's just keeping him very honest at this point. Through 4. Through 5, braking zone here. And you start to kind of keep on turning back on yourself through turn 6. Through the sort of almost double apex right-hander of 7. Then you shoot down towards 8, which already this man is at. Alex Sawyer again proving to be the absolute class of the field in F4 Southeast Asia. And even though we still have some 13.5 minutes to go, you have to say you'd be hard pressed to find anyone that's going to mount a challenge here in these opening stages. You can see the team are also watching on as well, Evans GP, who are keeping a watching brief on their drivers out on track. And of course this one here is certainly setting the pace with aplomb. Back to the fight for second, Aston Thorne still under threat from Gilmore as Sawyer continues to extend his lead, but that fight for second place is going to get closer. Across the line they were separated by about half a second. And Gilmore's last lap was a fraction slower, so Aston Thorne has matched the Australian and was barely faster. And they've also started to go into the 1 minute 40s now. Everyone else is still in on 1 minute 41s or lower, or slower. So the top 3 have now broken past sub 141. Alex Sawyer's been in that pace for a handful of laps anyway. But his best lap of the race is already 1 minute 39.9. So it's sub 1 minute 40 already for Alex Sawyer this race. 139.966 for the championship leader. The gap is down nearly 5 seconds out in front after 6 laps completed. That's not 5 seconds. Aston Thorne runs wide there through what looks like turns 5 and 6. This now puts Seth Gilmore right on his tail again through the double apex of 7. This is probably as close as Gilmore's been for a couple of laps. Aston Thorne feeling the pressure, using all the curb a little more, all the road available to him to try and push and get away. Just that little mistake, you just sense that Gilmore would have sniffed that and gone, right, there's an opportunity here. You can also notice that he's slightly tighter on corner exit when he comes out through 9 and 10. Through the kink of 11. And towards the end of another lap. And Gilmore is certainly putting this one under a lot of pressure at this point. It's the light. And lap time wise, you want to see consistency in pace. Alex Sawyer has gone into the 139s again. His best lap was a 139.966. His best lap, his last lap just then, was a 139.988. That's not only incredible pace, that's incredible consistency on top of that too. So Alex Sawyer is literally lapping at fast lap pace consistently. That just shows how strong he really is. He's pulled practically another second on the battle for P2. So we look backwards to Wong Zhongwei. Got the American Hong Kong driver Thomas Lee far behind him. Anyway, his season so far has been it's been quite consistent. Best result was 4th in the first race at Sepang. He's now running of course in the top 6. In 5th position. This would be his best result since Sepang race 3, we picked up 5th position. For Thomas Lee, who's ahead of him in the championship, if he finishes the way he is, that would be 6th position, but his best result has been a pair of 5ths, and that's been 1 each. At Sepang and here at Buriram in race number 1 on Friday. Just behind them is Sean Rajid, 7th position. It's the lowest place he's been in a race, if he finishes where he is now, within the next 10 minutes or so, since the opening race. Because he has a couple of podiums, and that was in races 2 and 3 at Sepang, but apart from that, he's only finished in the top 5 once. Outside of that, and that was in yesterday's second race here at Chang International Circuit. He's now running outside the top 5 and chasing down both Wong Zhongwei and Thomas Xu Li. Some work to do. He's keeping Li in his sights. So there could be a potential challenge in this second half of the race at some point. I think Thomas Xu Li's got the pace just about. Look at times last time by for them. Very even, 142.1 for both Li and Rashid. So pace-wise, they're quite evenly matched. There's nothing really to separate them. In terms of best lap times, yeah, not much difference either. 10th in it in favour of Li. That was in the high 141. 141.8 best lap of the race so far for Li. 141.9 for Rajiv. Just behind them, we've also got Ben Nerwing, who's in 8th position. Joshua Berry hasn't made much progress in 9th. Warakwang Aimachan also having a weekend pretty much to forget back in 10th. Doesn't have the pace at all to match the cars in front. And sadly, is quite off the pace in terms of where he should be. Still, he needs to close in on this lap so far. He's having to start to think about defending in his rearview mirror in a few moments' time, because it is looking quite close. He's winning this battle for 6th and 7th. Down towards turn 12. Turning in through the right-hander, and she was going to get a good run off the corner here, which might give him a good tow down towards turn 1. Meanwhile, making his way down towards turn 3 and still in blissful ignorance of anything else that's happening behind him. Race leader, championship leader, dominator in F4 Southeast Asia, Alex Sawyer, who continues to be the benchmark that everyone has to try and match. 140.212 his last time. He's still 8/10 quicker than the battle for second behind, which is still separated by half a second. Sawyer, Vietnamese driver, is making a mark to see what he can do. Certainly his talent, I'm sure, will carry him further into the higher reaches and the wider reaches of junior single-seater racing, given that he has been so quicker. And these two here are still dicing over that second place. Mason Aston and Seth Gilmore almost nose to tail as they come up through the double apex of 7, back through 8. Gilmore obviously will know it's only a 25-minute plus 1 lap race. Just be trying to apply the pressure here. This is more about Aston absorbing the pressure than Gilmore applying it in the first place. Aston is doing everything he can, everything he should be doing, hold on to the position. Just sense that Gilmore is just biding his time here. He knows he might have a pace advantage. He's just running at the same pace as Aston is, just looking for that opportunity. Closes in under braking through turn 12, and the sprint down the pit straight once again. This is now 10 laps in the books, 11th lap they've run on to. Inigo Anton is about 3.3 seconds behind in 4th place. Quite matching the cars in front. He did do a 1 minute 41.3, but he's not taking chunks out of the cars in front. He's actually lost 3/10 of them in the process. It's the ball. Tidy through 3. Onto the third long straight with facing out 3 corners back towards turn 4. But very far to that hander. He has got more of a gap now. I think he's going to pull another 10th on Gilmore, who is in the slipstream towards that very fast left-hander. There's Inigo Anton, Filipino driver, who's very happy. And now, there has been a time penalty for a safety car in procedure infringement being handed to somebody. And that is going to, if I can scroll across and have a look, someone's getting a time penalty. It's not quite telling me who it's going to. Someone's getting a penalty for a safety car procedure infringement. So we can get this on the screen. 56. So that's Thomas Lee. Thomas Lee's been given a 5-second time penalty for a safety car procedure infringement. Now I wonder if that's for him overtaking before before they got to the timing line, because he did start back in about 7th place on the grid, but he was a couple of places higher by the time they got across the line and into turn 1. I did wonder how he was able to do that. So I think that's him coming back to bite him. Also, Joshua Berry's being investigated for the same incident, so he might well have a 5-second time penalty put upon him in a few moments' time by race control. A penalty for Thomas Lee, which will 5 seconds. He's got a 5-second gap. No, he doesn't. In fact, he's got a half a second gap to Rishon Rashid behind. So he will drop behind Rishon in the end. Unless he pulls out a 5-second margin in the next roughly 4 minutes. I can't quite see that happening. Something happens. What has happened is Alex Sawyer has set another new fastest lap of the race, 1:39.889. He goes a 10th faster yet again on his personal best, and the race's best. He's continued to bring that gap out to nearly 10 seconds out in front. It's a pretty extraordinary drive once again from Alex Sawyer. Something he should be very, very proud of, at least towards the end here. This is Wadapong Aimachan. Just saw Joshua Berry in the foreground going through as well. Aimachan won't really walk away from Gurudam with fond memories. His results from a couple of races he picked up. 9th yesterday, he had to start from the pit lane for race 9th on Friday. Start from the pit lane for race 2 yesterday, and then had that early spin and dropped down to the 10th of the field and didn't really rise at all. Once again, Aimachan caught that as well. So all the work he's going to have to do for the next round at the Bangsang circuit. Time is starting to run out here for Seth Gilmore, because he practically spent the entire race staring at the gearbox that Ayrton has before. Start performance driver, putting in a start performance in 2nd place. It's his first outing of the season here at Gurudam. And certainly why that satellite support from Evans GP is paying off. And Gilmore then is having to work hard in the works car, if you like, compared to his satellite teammate. Alex Sawyer, though, not much we can say about Alex Sawyer, really, apart from he's just driving beautifully at this point in time. No dramas, no mistakes. Had to do a little bit of battling yesterday from P6 on the grid, to the partially reversed grid. But it was still a fine drive to pick his way through. It didn't take him long to get to the front. It took about roughly a lap and a half to squeeze past the 5 cars in front of him. And now as he makes his way towards the end of another lap, he will be looking to keep this momentum going and go for his 6th victory in a row. He will own the top step. Now he should possibly get across the line, I think, with just about enough time for this lap he's going on to, and that maybe, plus another, and then the mandatory 1 lap. So the best lap is actually 1:38. Gets across the line as a 1:39. I think he might possibly have 2 more laps to go rather than just the 1, depending on when he gets the last lap board. Now, Nastathorn comes across the line 2nd place, but the gap is now come out by roughly another couple of tenths. So Gilmore didn't quite close in on this lap. He's lost a couple of tenths on this lap and has got to make that up a little more. So he's just fading backwards in his closing stages. I look at the time. That time did. Okay, well that looks like it might. This is going to be a little bit touch and go for whether we get possibly 2 more laps or 1 more lap. Alex Sawyer did just do another new fastest lap at the race last time by 1:39.774. So I think there's a possibility we might just sneak in potentially another lap apart from the mandatory +1 lap we have to do when the timer hits 0. It all depends on how quick Alex Sawyer can get around back to the timing line, whether or not he gets shown the last lap board getting back to the start-finish line. Gap has gone out, to 1.5, so whatever happened on the last lap, Gilmore lost a second on that last lap. I wonder if he possibly tried to make a move, didn't quite come off, or he made a mistake and dropped him a few tenths. Gilmore still trying to push as hard as he dares. I think it might well be something that's possibly not going to happen. Now, it all depends here, how quickly does Sawyer get across the line here, because he's got 3, 2, 1, it's going to be 1 lap to go. Yeah, final lap, so he won't get across to do an extra lap on top of that, which will certainly please him. Might not please his teammate, Seth Gilmore, because Seth will certainly be hoping for another lap to try and close back in on Aston Thorne. He's got one more chance now if they come into the final lap of the race. Aston Thorne have been consistently running in second place after he started on the front row of the grid, alongside the pole sitter Alex Sawyer. Gilmore on that last lap, did he close in very much? Yes, he did, but he closed in by about 0.4 of a second. The gap is still 1.1 on this last lap of the race here at Bulleram. So Sawyer still leads. This battle for second place continues to go back and forth between Aston Thorne and Gilmore. Just behind him, we should mention Inigo Anton. I-N-I-G-O. He's fourth. And John Way in fifth position, so he holds the top five. And that was certainly pleasing for Long, because he has so far finished in the top five twice, but has missed the top five since Sepang in race 3. And just further back, you have in sixth position Thomas Yu Lee, who has that 5-second penalty for the safety car procedure. Rishon Rajiv should be 7th, then Derby 8. Joshua Berry has also got a safety car procedure penalty potentially hanging over him. Wadapong Imrachan in P10. But you've run out of descriptives, you run out of superlatives to describe just how good this young man really is. Alex Sawyer then comes up to the final corner. There is still no way to beat him in 2025 in F4 Southeast Asia. He takes the checkered flag and again keeps up a 100% win record so far for the season. 6 out of 6 for the Vietnamese driver. He wins race 3 here at Buranam. Fantastic drive once again from pole position. In the fight for second, it will go to Ayrton Astor Thorne. We'll be delighted with that at his home circuit. Third place for Seth Gilmore. Solid podium for him as well. And it's Anton in fourth place from the Philippines, John Way in P5. Now, late battle here. This is between 25 and 37. It's between Rajiv and Thomas Yu Lee. No, this is between them all the way, side by side across the line. It's a pretty photo finish, but I think the 5-second penalty has to be applied because across the line there was only 31,000th of a second between Thomas Yu Lee and Rishal Rajiv at the flag for 6th position. But there is that 5-second penalty that has to be applied for Thomas Yu Lee, so I think he will get demoted back to 7th in the end, despite the extraordinary finish. Ben Knowing comes across in 8th in a very uneventful race. Same also for Wadapong Imrachan, who is ahead of Joshua Berry. Now, he's also got ahead of Berry because Berry must have had an issue on the final lap of the race, because Wadapong Imrachan is showing up in P9, which is quite interesting. So, Alex Sawyer, once again, the person who everyone still has to ask the question, how on earth do you stop this guy? Because there is simply no way to keep him back from taking victory after victory after victory. So Alex Sawyer then, with his 6th win of the season, a still 100% win record in 2025. Ayrton Astorthorne takes an excellent 2nd place. That is an upgrade from his 4th place yesterday and his 3rd place on Friday. Then Seth Gilmore in 3rd for Australia for Evans GP. Inigo Anton for 4th for the Philippines, and then it's Wong Zhong Wei in P5. Rishon Rajiv was in 6th place in the end, and does get that because, of course, there was the 5-second penalty to be applied to Thomas Yu Lee, so he does get demoted to 7th, even though it was a photo finish for across the line on track at least. Then it was Ben Knowing in 8th position, Wadapong Imrachan in 9th, and then it's Joshua Berry in P10. Suspicion that maybe Joshua Berry got a 5-second penalty for the same infringement that Thomas Yu Lee did, because he is showing behind and the gap is 7.3 seconds. In his last lap, he only lost 3 seconds, but he was ahead going into the final lap before it got applied. So I think there has been a late penalty for Joshua Berry. I'll just check the race control messages. Yes, there was. So Joshua Berry did get a 5-second penalty, also as did Thomas Yu Lee. So that concludes racing at the Buriram Chang International Circuit for this weekend for F4 Southeast Asia. And once again, applause all round for the man who continues to dominate in this championship, and the man they're still trying to find some way to get a hold of. That is Alex Sawyer. The rest of the championship, for those who want to be interested, who are watching, will be at the awesome Bangsain circuit in Mueang Chonburi. It's a wonderful circuit. We'll see you there in roughly around about 2 months' time. They're supported by Porsche Carrera Cup Asia and the Thailand Super Series. You've then got 2 more visits to round off the season, both in September at Sepang International Circuit on the 5th to the 7th of September, and then the 19th to the 21st of September, 2 weeks later. And that will conclude the season. Of course, next time when you hear the broadcast here, it'll once again have the dulcet tones of Mr. Jake Sanson, who is back on here. You heard him for race number 1, but other commitments meant he had to. I was very kindly drafted in for races 2 and 3. It's been a pleasure to commentate on the championship in his stand-in. And of course, he will come back, seeing that Alex Sawyer has once again continued to dominate in F4 Southeast Asia. In fact, looking at the points coming into this race, he was already 68 points ahead of Seth Gilmore, his teammate, in 2nd place, coming into the weekend. And then going into today's race, after the results from Friday and yesterday were factored in, Rishon Rajiv was also up to 3rd place in the championship, but I think possibly Inigo Anton may well have leapt ahead of him in 3rd place because he was 4 points behind. So given the fact in terms of championship points that you get 30 for a win, 22 for 2nd, and 18 for 3rd. Now, Anton was 4th. And let's have a look here. Also, we had some issues for race 5 as well. Well, we'll get to that shortly on, but in the end, it was another dominant performance for Alex Sawyer, so congratulations to him. And that concludes our racing for F4 Southeast Asia here at Buradam. It's been a fantastic visit. We've had both wet and dry running. You can see some highlights here in the background from race number 3, as we saw Alex Sawyer once ago take another victory and to go 6 from 6. Can anyone stop him? Well, the next chance to try and do that is going to be on the Bang San Street Circuit in a couple of months' time at the beginning of July. So be sure to join us then. But from all of us here at Buradam, from myself, Scott Woodbis, also on behalf of Jake Sanson, from everyone at Top Speed and everyone at Buradam International Circuit, thank you for watching, and tune in a couple of months' time when we get racing on the streets of Bang San in Thailand for round 3 of F4 Southeast Asia 2025. But until then, take care and bye for now.